Welcome to another episode of the School Podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest, but before we get into it, we have to thank our sponsors, Access Education, Edurio, Dreams to Reality, which is of course mine, and Dave from Gadget line, who create world-class videos for schools. Yes, we've just filmed with Sir Paul Tan, and now we have a head teacher from Dalton Hanson Academy. How are we, Sam?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Why I appreciate it is because obviously we travelled a long way, and we asked Paul, we said, who else could we interview? And he mentioned you. The funny thing is, I asked Paul, have you watched any of our other stuff? And he said no. He didn't explain, didn't complain, just said no. I asked you. Thankfully, you've watched a few of our other episodes.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be good. But if you're on holiday in Ibiza, kicking back, relaxing, and I say, what do you do? What's your job role, Sam? What would you say to people?
So what am I doing in Ibiza? I've got 3 kids.
There's a good family hotel in Ibiza.
Yeah, we went to France this summer. We did like a Euro camp. It was good. So somebody asked me what my job is.
Yeah.
Head teacher.
Head teacher.
How
long have you been a head teacher for?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So talk to me quickly as possible, because I want to dive into your philosophy a little bit. How did leadership come about? How long have you been a teacher for? Yeah, why did you want to get into teaching?
I did a placement at university, like helping out in a primary school. Something to do, something for your CV. I had a friend who was also doing it, and she was quite convincing. So I went and took this placement, and actually, I'd never thought about being a teacher, but I was in a primary school, tough bit of Leeds, and you go home at the end of the day and feel pretty good about helping out, like reading and things like that, and wound up helping out at summer school, and someone's like, "Oh, you're quite good at this."
Yeah.
And so applied for PGCE, moved out of Birmingham, did that, finished that, went to London, did 2 years there. Just really enjoyed it. I left to go back to university for a year because I'd gone very young straight into teaching, and then finished that and thought, do you know what, actually, geotechnical engineering, so all these great jobs in Borneo and stuff like that. It was largely cutting down the rainforest to dig for gold. It didn't sit with me. So I went back to working at school in London, and again, just I think it's the best job in the world. You go home feeling good. It's not as stressful as everyone makes out. People, oh, you teach, that must be a nightmare. It's just it's the best job in the world, mate. I go to school.
Why is there that perception that it's an extremely stressful job?
If you're not right for it.
Because if you go on Twitter and you go on sometimes LinkedIn, mainly Twitter, that is the narrative was pushed by a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it'll put people off. You speak to loads of people, a million or something.
I've spoken to a million over 12, 13 years.
You engage well with kids. Did you ever think about going into teaching?
I kind of feel like I'm an educator. I'm not necessarily a teacher, so I feel like I'm in that field. Yeah. Because I'm in the classroom 80% of the school calendar, probably.
But if you go back 10 years, would you have thought it was for you?
No, absolutely not.
Because?
Probably because, if I'm honest, my relationship with schools and teachers and what I probably experienced is funny enough now, I'm writing a book with my old head teacher,
nice.
Which is pretty cool, about the relationship between parents and teachers and how we can kind of bridge that gap to help our young people. But I guess for me, there's that, I grew up in a kind of negative narrative around what school is, around my community. Nobody really liked school, but also, I just didn't think I was probably good enough to help and support young people.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, your emotional capacity and your relationship building and those interpersonal skills, that's not maybe prioritised high enough. Or teachers, you can go be academic. And remember when I was at school, teachers, they must be the cleverest person in the world, right? They must be mega smart. So people think, well, to be a teacher, you've got to be clever. And in all honesty, I found I don't sit still very well. School wasn't great for me. I've got just enough, had a good teacher that sort of like, got me to stick around for sixth form, and things turned out right in the end. But I wasn't great at school. I got enough to do all right. My interpersonal skills, like working with people, like was always a real strength. But how do you advertise for that? And I think adverts for sort of teachers these days that go out on telly and things like that are quite, they focus on the relationship side of it. 'Cause, you're not going to be earning mega bucks. You're going to have a good salary, but you're not going into it for the money. So is it really targeted at the right sort of people? Because I've seen your interactions. Like, you make a great teacher.
Yeah.
Don't mean that like you think, well, I'm the best at maths, so I'm going to be a maths teacher, or I was like the best at science in my class, so I'm going to be a science teacher. I became a geography teacher because I had a really good geography teacher who sold geography to me, and I loved it, and I liked being outside, and it was a subject where I could move around and do stuff a bit.
When you left London, did you come straight back up north? What schools did you work in? You don't need no names, but areas.
Yeah, so it was like West London. Start with like Acton, like 2 years there. It was like 2004. So it was before sort of like behaviour became a focus in school. It was back in the time where like everyone was like, if you make lessons interesting enough, like kids will behave. And it was lovely kids, good school, lovely staff, and things like that. It was a bit wild. I think as time's gone by, it's become less sort of acceptable for schools to be really challenged. Like I did my PGC, like spoke about beforehand. Yeah. Like it was a really tough gig. Like for me, I found that side of things like interesting. Like probably like a little bit. You want to be where it's tough. Yeah. Was kind of the reason why I sort of went for that kind of school. Yeah. And then when I went back down to London, the next one was like Cricklewood. Again, like like really good, like camaraderie, like really good staff, like students, absolutely amazing once you work there for a bit. But they'll always try it in that first thing, and you'll have a lot of people who'll get into teaching, get there, have the first 3 weeks, which is like nice and steady, and then have a really tough patch. Got you. And then be like, do you know what, I can't do this, I'm out. Whereas if they went back the next year after the summer and their kids are like, oh, do you know what, you're here for us, you're not just, coming in and like, doing a little bit of time and disappearing. Once you've got the consistency and the kids know you and know they can trust you and know that you're going to be consistent in their lives, that's when you get the payoff, because they want to learn. They're coming in like, I have at least 1,000 people say hello to me every day. Like who has a job that like that? Yeah. It just doesn't really occur much, does it? So yeah.
So you're saying relationships take time?
Yeah, they take time. They can only really form in a calm environment. Like it's hard to form relationships if the school's in a really, really complex position, dealing with really challenging behaviours. You have high turnover of staff, and if you've got high turnover of staff, those relationships don't develop. And then you can try and implement a behaviour system that's like super rigid, and then loads of kids just won't come to school. But then also it has an impact on the teaching and learning, doesn't it? And also then if you have to bring supplies in. And yeah, exactly. And you just wind up in this like doom cycle where no one can build the good relationships because it's not calm enough. No one can make it calm because they don't have the relationship quality to get in there. And from my experience in my current school, one of the great things about it was like a big team got dumped in. Like, I'm not here as the head teacher. I turned it around. That's not how it is. Like, a big group of people help shift it as a team effort. Like, it can never be like one person. I like that. So let's dive into that just a little bit. So at Hanson's Academy, before you and your team got dropped in, what was Hanson Academy like before you got there? So like, low 70s for attendance. So probably one of the lowest in the country. Average? Yeah, overall. Yeah. Wow. So low 70s. So we got most improved attendance in the year after the first year. Went up by like 9%, but kids just weren't going to school. They weren't bought in. Yeah. So that's probably the most damning indictment outcomes wise. Different head teachers. Yeah. So I was my deputy head teacher. I've got 3 of them. They're fantastic. Like massive contribution to it. Wouldn't be where we are without them. Sarah has been there when I got there, she'd been there 26 years and I was her 20th head teacher. So you've got like a whole community that look at the school as trust comes in, trust goes out, trust comes in, trust goes out. no one ever like had the buy-in. Whereas like when Paul took it on, it was like, right, we'll have it, we'll sign it over straight away. There was that system where like it kind of try before you buy, where I just would go in and try and do it for a year and then see how it is at the end of it. And like in some cases get a big chunk of money for going in, see how you do at the end of it. At the end of it, well, do you know what, it hasn't moved forward. You didn't send 20 people in, which is what like, Delta did. Like, there were like a bunch of us went in, experts in different fields, like you safeguarding, you send, 2 directors of maths to get maths curriculum sorted, 2 directors of English to get English curriculum sorted, pastoral staff to sort of coach and mentor the heads of years, and then like, once you've got that surge of staff in who all know that, you're not going to win it in any other way than building those relationships and implementing the systems. And once you've got that, then the staff want to stay. Like our turnover was like next to nothing this year, like maybe 2 people. When Ofsted came, the staff voice was like incredibly strong, like really, really positive, which, at a time where a trust has come in, like done a restructure, got the finances in order, was really positive. Behaviour-wise, it was quite notorious.
How many students you got in the building?
1,700, but
wow.
It fluctuates. So we're like, because of its reputation in the past,
1,700.
Yeah, so it's got a sixth form with about 200.
When you said 3 deputy heads, I was thinking, it sounds like a...
Yeah, it's a big school. The issue is it was never full, and it was the only school in Bradford that wasn't full because of its reputation, and so people didn't want to send their children there, and lots of the children that were there, in the first year, ran an evening, there were 80 kids who were placed there that didn't put it as first, second, third, fourth or fifth choice, and they just didn't have a place in other schools, so they come to us, but the parents were already like, I know what your Ofsted is, like, I know what it's like here, I don't want my kid here, I've got no other choice. It's like, look, trust us, we're going to move things forward, this is where we are. So, a lot of the key performance indicators from parents' eyes, which is largely Ofsted, it was, inadequate and had been since 2010. It had gone up to RI a couple of times, but, inadequate, RI, inadequate, RI, inadequate. So like, the narrative around the school and the narrative that the kids form in their head is, well, I go to a bad school, like, I'll choose my words. That was their mentality. Well, no one cares, I've been dumped here. And that was like, a big thing that we had to shift, because everyone in the community, and I was lucky because, I'd worked really good school close by, lots of people there lived in the area and sort of like knew me a bit and, helped build the relationship, which was very fractured with the community. Because, if your kid's coming home from school and like, there were incidents before, now Ofsted have been like, it's calm, it's good, you can come, hopefully you'll come speak to the kids. That could be like, maybe.
Yeah, you're the head teacher.
I'll put you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you've accepted my request, not like Paul. I've asked him probably 4 times, and I think it was on the 5th time I asked him, he said, I might accept you. I said, Paul, we're friends now. We're friends. And he's like, think about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, building those relationships was really, really important. And like, there's been some real local heroes that have sort of supported the school and sold the school for us. And like, results went up in the first year by like 5%, went up by like 7% the second year. Once you've got the data and you've got the results, you can tell people and they'll believe you. Before that, we were just having to be like, right, we're open. Any day you want to come and visit and I'll walk you around the school. It was handy.
Access Education software is there for those busy school days, for the chaotic mornings when getting out of bed without a coffee can feel impossible. We're there for the multitaskers, for the cashless lunch payments, the fussy eaters, and the ones that always forget the school trips, the letters home and the countless emails. And we're there for the teachers, making sure everyone's paid accurately and on time. And we're no stranger to the world of education-related pensions. We're there for the time off, whether you choose it or whether it chooses you. We're here for those looking for the best, for those focusing on developing and empowering themselves and others, and for those looking to build their teams. We're there for those tasked with keeping the budget in check in challenging times, for those planning the recommendations to governors, for budget monitoring and those that need to report on adjustments throughout the year, for those planning the next budget and the next, for the years to come. We're here for the information seekers, insight detectives, and real-time data warriors. For those that need accurate reports generated in minutes. We're here for the children. For those that want thousands of award-winning, easy-to-digest learning videos across more than 30 subjects in multiple languages. For the anxious exam takers, and for every single person that wants to make education great. Once the school day is done, we'll still play our part. We're still there for updates and to keep parents informed. And for those homework assignments and all-important grade boosts. We're still there for the governor meeting and the parents' evening, the after-school clubs and the extracurricular classes. And as for the hard-working teachers and staff, we're here, hoping you can find a little extra time in the evenings to unwind. So when the day comes to an end, teachers, parents and children across the land can rest easy, knowing that Access Education software will be there tomorrow to lend you a hand. Access Education, giving you the freedom to put education first.
Who's like, the deputy CEO moving forward. And he's the one that gave me my job. He was like, he come along to the opening, which was like, you're not going to stand there, I'm going to be there as well. And like, he's in school a lot, and he's up and it's like.
So so what you're saying is, even like with the CEO role or the deputy CEO role, he's there with you.
Yeah, like we don't work from home. Like in leadership, it's not a thing. So like, Paul was in school, like, before the summer, like Andy, he's always coming in, and he'll come in and like, I want him to visit. He's like, especially in the early days, like you needed that backup because it was hard. Like, press, parents, kids, like, people climbing the fence to come in and like, start on kids, like cause drama. Like, it was hectic. And, having Andy behind you, or when you ring up, you're like, oh, this has happened. He's like, look, don't worry, we've done this, because he'd done it all before. Yeah. Is really important. So yeah, he's in school a lot. And anyway, he stood there and he was like, he goes, right, my challenge to you, you can turn up any day. Sam's here every day. His office is there next to reception. You turn up and he will take you on a tour of the school. Doesn't matter what time it is, doesn't matter whether it's break time or lunchtime. No other school will offer you this, right? That's how confident we are. And I'm not good at selling stuff. And he knows that's sort of like one of my weaknesses, I suppose. So he came along specifically to do it. And so then just like tour after tour, like people be coming in like Friday afternoon, period 5. But like the kids like believe in the school now, and we spent a lot on like trips, visits, like spending money on the kids, building links with like, West Yorkshire Fire Service come and work with some of our kids. Police do, like lots of things that make the kids feel valued. And it's those conversations with Paul about funding. Like year 1, I was like to Andy, when are we going to talk about budget? He just laughed at me. It's like, mate, you don't need to be thinking about budget this year. You like culture. It's like, focus on the school. You don't need to think about any of that.
Be visible.
Yeah, be visible, build relationships, get things back on track. We'll sort budget next year. Then it gets into next year. And we ran it, and we ran a surplus budget, like significant surplus. And that's with spending 120 grand on trips and visits. That's with, giving out free uniform to all kids, 70 grand for the uniform. Engaging with lots of like programs and things like that, because when the schools run right number of periods for the teaching staff, and like I think it was mentioned before. Well, like, you wind up getting them to teach them when they're not unhappy.
Yeah.
But like the Ofsted, like I said, the feedback from staff at Ofsted was exceptionally positive, because like a lot of the stuff that they would otherwise be asked to do in some places around like pointless meetings or pointless paperwork or things like that, if it's not useful for running the school, it's generally not done. What we focus on is making sure that it's high quality delivery for the kids, high quality relationships, and having the right people in front of them. Yeah. And that goes back to that thing you were saying, like, some people will have left teaching because they should have never been in teaching. Like, they were never destined to lead a class of 30 kids. Like, it just was not within their capability.
Oh, yeah.
But they weren't going into it, and then they come out of it and they're like, oh, it's the worst thing in the world. Like, I can remember, like, down in London, there was somebody who, someone threw an egg at them in a classroom, and they were like, early years teaching. And like, they left and they, talked about this was back when I was a geography teacher, talked about how awful it was. And I was like, I couldn't get it. in my head, because like every day I was like bouncing out of school, like, you know, down the road to the climbing wall. Like,
but then also it rubs off onto the children as well, because they feel that energy.
Yeah, if you're not positive, like they won't be positive.
And one thing that I talk about, and it's not necessarily about being buzzing all the time, is it? It's just about that energy, and you know, they're always going to have friends, but they're only going to have one head teacher, ideally.
Not 20.
Yeah, not 20.
Yeah.
But it's that energy, and I always say, especially when I work with some really challenging students, I say, how many of you feel like you've got a target on your head when you walk into a classroom? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you breathe and you get sent out for it. And obviously we've got behavior policies in place to ensure, you know, it's good behavior and it's managed. However, a lot of these students, and most from my experience, the pupil premium students that I mainly work with, they say they just feel tolerated. And then if you're going into a classroom where you just feel tolerated, you're not going to achieve the outcomes that you want. And I feel like we've all been in environments, whether it's at a family occasion, whether it's at something else, and you walk into a room and you know people don't really like you, you're just tolerated. It's not a nice feeling. And yes, maybe they did something, or maybe in year 7 and 8 and 9 their behavior was dreadful. Maybe they told a teacher to F off. Maybe that is the case. However, it's not personal, and you're a professional, right? I've been into some places where, you know, I've gone to some really challenging places. I've been swore at, I've had a chair chucked at me before, and the next time I'm in there, you can see the student a bit like thinking like, what's Cameron gonna say? And I say, good morning, how are you? How's things? And they're like, yeah, fine, because we're a professional. But that feeling, and I've felt it growing up in certain family scenarios, is that feeling of just being tolerated is not a nice feeling. So what I mean is that level of energy, whether a teacher or somebody in that room doesn't want to be there, doesn't like you, just hates it, the student's going to feel that. Yeah,
and you know, again, that stems down from these, because if you've got people that are coming in at 6 in the morning, leaving at 6 at night, like taking home 2 bags with marking, are they really going to come into school the next day and be on point and be able to look across the class and like, morning, 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 and then the kid's like doesn't respond, and you're like, whoa, you okay? Yeah. And they're like, you know, you see it in their eyes and you know that there's an issue, and either, you know, you pick it up and you deal with it and you fix it for them, and then they'll respect you and, you know, work on whatever you need to get them to work on forever, or you miss it, you challenge them on something that's not quite right, you break the relationship, they're disaffected from the subject, you're trying to figure out why don't you like geography? I don't get it. Like, geography's mint. Like, you learn about the world. Like, you can solve all the problems. And before you know it, the relationship's gone, and they are going to sat there and they are going to feel tolerated. And the teacher will feel that acrimony swings both ways. And like I say, you know, you're one of those people that can sort of park it and be like, this is just what kids do sometimes, especially the most vulnerable, the most damaged children. They are always going to be the most complicated. And it does go both ways. Right. And mate, I was getting told to fuck off like on the daily basis. Kids, parents in the early stages, it's just, but they never really mean it. No, because they don't know you. They can't hate you. They don't know you. Like, they might hate the system. They might hate like a head teacher, because I'm supposed to hate a head teacher. Yeah. And like, you know, it is funny when you have those follow-up meetings and someone's been like really, really deeply offensive to you. You're just like, how are you? Yeah. And you can see them just sort of like that thing in their mind is sort of like switches of, oh, do you know what? They're not just going to bin me off. Because for a lot of them, they're behaving like that because they've been binned off a lot in their lives. And there's plenty of kids in plenty of schools that are in disadvantaged areas where, like, you know, they won't have ever felt that someone's really bought into them. And that's kind of the, you know, your thing, isn't it? Yeah. What does Paul say? Intervention through interaction. Is that what he says? Yeah. And so I guess you said if you're done a 12-hour day and you come in the next day and you're tired and you miss something. But even just sometimes, not even saying what's wrong, just saying, hey, you okay? You seem tired today. How's things? And just having that conversation. I guess, as you said, if you're on the school gate, you're walking around, you're visible. Just those small 1,000 hellos a day. Could be the difference between a student walking around like this to being like, oh, he's noticed me. Yeah, and some of the, you know, the catastrophic incidents that take place in school, like, you know, sometimes they will take place because someone's not been able to pick it up, and it's not through that person's fault. Like, I don't know what day Andy's coming in, but he'll always be bobbing in. If I once stood on the blue line in the morning greeting kids, he'd be like, well, why weren't you on the blue line this morning?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Oh, I was having a cup of tea and a biscuit and sending an email. He'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because the critical incidents that cause significant damage to school, both with regards to like progress in lessons or like student well-being, they can often be picked up in the morning with the right conversation. All you've got to do is direct, where's your tie?
I know.
You not got a tie?
Yeah.
Oh, bob into student services and get one. And 99% will go in there, grab a tie, put it on, be like, great, look, mint, off you go. Done. Then 1% will be like, I ain't getting a tie. Whoa, why not getting a tie? They're free. And they're like, and it's much better that conversation starts there with someone like a head teacher, and then it's just like, come on, like walk down and we've got blue line, my office, student services, safeguarding. Right, let's go have a conversation down here. Like safeguarding, they know that they're always there. Really nice people, build relationships, know all the really vulnerable kids in school, know what their cohort is, know who's in care, know who's on for early help, know who's at what stages of that sort of social services intervention or emotional wellbeing intervention, to make sure that it's picked up by the right person. So right person, right conversation. A teacher who's got 30 kids in front of them and has to deliver content in the lesson isn't necessarily the best person for that child to talk to in that moment. So it's about really effective sort of communication and allocating the right person to deal with issues when they arise.
You said when you first came in, you had a lot of support, so it wasn't just you, which is amazing to hear, like giving credit to others. But how do you maintain that level of consistency then when you have kind of balanced it?
Yeah.
And obviously people then start to go, or the deputy CEO might not come in as much. Like, how do you maintain consistency?
And that's how
so that improvement continues, not just for 2 years, but 4 years, 10 years, and beyond.
And look, in the early stages, staff didn't really want to come out of the classroom onto the corridor, do that sort of interventional interaction. They didn't feel very safe. Is the feedback often came through most forward, and will be the case in many schools. You look at some of the schools across the country where teachers are on strike because they feel that behaviour is so poor in their workplace, and that's not good for them. No one should have to tolerate it. Once the school's calm, everything's settled, you can identify who are the staff that have got really good potential for getting out in the corridors and building those relationships and challenging poor behaviour and implementing effective systems. And as the team sort of went back their original roles, we went from 2 directors in maths down to 1 director in maths, 2 in English down to 1 in English. With regards to the safeguarding team, we went from having 5 people because there were some really complex safeguarding issues to manage in the school.
Because you had to backtrack as well, right?
A lot, and because it was the not full school, any complicated cases that were really struggling in their schools, right, I want to change school. Okay, well, you can change school. You've got to fill in a form. Okay, which school can I go to? Well, any school that's got spaces. There's only one school with spaces.
Yeah.
So it concentrated, and when we got there, I had a conversation with someone from Bradford Council. We've got really good relationships with Bradford Council now. They're very supportive. But the leader, the RAM, one of the key safeguarding people, and he identified we had the highest CSE, highest CCE rates in the city, and that's not. That doesn't match with the demographics of the area. If you're looking at the indices of deprivation, there are more deprived areas in Bradford, but some of the complex cases will wind up getting concentrated there. And if you don't have the finance to put the bodies in to solve those issues, because you're really stretched, and that goes back to your conversation from before, you can't fix it. You can't get the effective interventions in place. You can't make sure that the cohort that's in the school is, it's the right place for them.
Leadership. Did you start teaching to be a head teacher one day?
No, I wanted to be a head of geography.
Okay.
And then when I started doing that, I wanted to be a head of year. And then when I became head of geography, there was a gap as my boss left, and it was, it had gone really well in geography, and I was like, I may as well do it for the rest. And then there was a gap in senior leadership. I had a really good head teacher back then, Carolyn. It was in South East London. just like, really stoic,
Yeah.
calm, like I learnt a lot from her, and she encouraged me, and I guess that's that thing that we just spoke about, isn't it? She saw that I was good at one aspect of school and, moved me forward in it. So I guess, I would have been happy being a head of geography, but equally when someone's like, oh, can you do this for me? Yeah, of course I can.
Do you think leadership is like this natural born thing, or do you think you can develop it? And if you think you can develop it, what do you feel like was one of your biggest weaknesses stepping into a leadership role, which you kind of had to really work on? Something like you had to because some things come natural, where I might be great at communication, but then something else, like my organisation might be terrible.
Hey, don't steal my story.
Oh, there you go.
Look, my, like I say, being part of a trust means you've got this network, and, the backup means that I can go to an expert. So I'll go to Sarah, who's our trust lead in safeguarding, and that was my route. So I'm strong at it, but I can go to, if it's finance, I've got a finance person to talk to. So it's about having the team and knowing your weaknesses. I'm not going to pretend I was the most organised person growing up. Like homework, coursework, none of that was for me. Exams, great. That was where my strength was. Knowing your staff and being open and honest about what you're going to be good at. Like if someone is turning up to school and it's going to be a complicated conversation, we know who's best to get to the door. So knowing your staff, and it goes for the students as well, isn't it? If you know and understand the people that are in your team, work within your organisation, then you can build on their strengths. And I guess that's how I wound up in the role that I am, because people have always been like, you're good at this, do this for me. But that doesn't mean you can't teach leadership. You have to push people out of their comfort zone to do it sometimes, because some people don't want to talk to lots of people, and they will always find it difficult in some of those situations where you're having to tell people what to do. If you've got a strong moral belief that what you're doing is right, telling people what to do is easy, right? Because you know why it has to happen. I know that school has to be calm because I've can remember incidents throughout my career where there've been really devastating outcomes as a result of things not being calm. And that comes from experience, doesn't it?
And there's one school we work at in Manchester, and actually Stephen Worthington, the head teacher, and one of their philosophies, their deputy told me actually, when I was just having dinner, they said, we sweat the small stuff so that the big stuff don't happen. And it's because the community that they're serving, they can't have, as you said earlier, it can go bad quickly. And that's why they try and focus on sweating the small stuff. Is there a big difference, or have you noticed any kind of distinction between the schools down south in London, in Birmingham, in Bradford? Is there anything?
Hi, I'm Iona from Edurio. We believe in the power of leading through listening, and we work with schools and trusts across England to conduct stakeholder feedback surveys to help you find out where you are now and where you need to go next on the things that matter most. Get in touch if you'd like to know more.
Kids are kids.
Yeah, interesting.
I agree. When I come from up here and go and work in school in London, everyone's like, whoa, you going to school in London? What's it like? There was obviously incidents that take place in the schools, in the community, that are high profile incidents, and that's what gets in the press. What doesn't get in the press is that 98% of interactions in that school or in that location or in that community are entirely positive. No one cares about that.
No.
They care about what the headline is. So, when I went down to London, I was like, I'm going to go and teach in London. All the other people in my course were like, ooh, no, we're going to stay here in Birmingham. Like, what's wrong with you? And actually, the school that I was at in Birmingham that's probably the toughest, and I was an NQT, and me and my mate, Tom, from the PGCE, both got put there. I think the course leaders knew, Tom was very much like me, it was good. quite sort of resilient, I suppose, like naturally resilient, like played rugby, like high level, like much.
Do you like rugby, by the way?
Yeah, no, I'm not very good at it. I played like when I was a kid.
Union
but,
or
like,
league?
Union is sorry.
Because you're from up here, so I thought league's big up
Yeah.
here.
It's Union the valley that I'm in, but like I don't watch it. I don't play it anymore. I think the last game I played, I was like 26 for a friend's team, and I got absolutely mauled. I can remember back waking up the next day and being like I'd come back and like, oh, where am I painkillers? I can't get out of bed. But yeah, like, and we enjoyed it there, and we enjoyed the challenge. We were the right people for that school. Like, I wouldn't be the right person for Eton. Like, it wouldn't be for me. And getting the right people in the right positions is like one of the most important thing. And it's the same with the kids. Like, you know, you've got to give them something they can win at if you're going to get them bought in a school, aren't you? So like, you know, I know that there's kids that are in my school that, you know, French is never going to be their bag. Like, you know, they're really going to struggle in English, really going to struggle in maths. But send them down to Shipley Fire Station and they do like a 6-week grit program with West Yorkshire Fire Service. Absolutely fly. And, you know, that's their perfect job in the future. It's like good pay, part of the community, giving back. And once they're doing well there and they see that you've done that for them, then you've got the buy-in. You can be like, right, okay, yeah, you can still do that, but I need you to be doing your maths then work. I need you to be on Sparks, mate. And they'll be like, oh, no, don't make me do it. It's like, come on, just do it. And then, you know, you can keep on with this side of stuff. But without something that they can feel successful at in school, like, you're on hiding to nothing, aren't you?
It's interesting because I talk about it a lot, and they say sometimes when I go into the schools, they're just not performing in the classroom, attendance is bad, behaviour is bad. I thought, have you thought about putting something in front of them? Something they can... So have you applied for college yet? No. What would you like to do in college? Well, maybe be a car mechanic. Okay, let's try and sort something out. So instead of just waiting until the end of the year and then maybe just going on to a level 1 course in mechanics, maybe we can get you on the best course possible. Now they've got that carrot in front of them. Now they've got something they need to work towards. So, okay, I've got my place provisionally confirmed, but if I get my English and maths and something else, then I can get onto that course, or I can get an apprenticeship here, or I can do that. So it's all about trying to provide them with something to work towards instead of just being this kind of this idea. It's actually tangible, and now we know what we need to do to get there.
Yeah, you've got to personally incentivise. I mean, and you know, one of the kids that I'm very proud of this year, you know, in year 10, like 1 in English, 1 in maths at best. That was
wow.
That was where he was, and you know, he's going to the Army Foundation College, and I'm like dead proud of him. Like, I think it's ace.
That's up this way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Harrogate.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
you know, we'll be getting, I don't know, like 900 quid a month, like living, you know, getting out of Bradford, going and doing something exciting, new, interesting. He's been really motivated by it. Like, you know, come in like on a Monday, how many press ups did you get this weekend? And you know, he got a 5 in English and a 4 in maths.
Wow.
And he got motivated because we were having conversations as, look, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, you get a place in the army whether you pass English or maths. Is the reality. Like, I'm not an expert, I don't work for the army, I don't know what they're...
But they still have
entry grades
they still have to retake, I think, don't they?
Yeah, they will at college, but it's that conversation of, but like, if you get in and like, you know, you've got somebody else who's got a 5 and a 5 and they get promoted above you, and they're telling you what to do, but you're better than them, how are you going to feel? And he's like, well, like, yeah, I was like, you know, and you're going to be in like potentially combat situations where you're facing something really complicated and you might not believe in your leader because you know that you're smarter than them. How are you going to deal with that decision? He's like, oh, yeah, like, so like, don't do it for you now, do it for future you.
Plus, you
so
might
like
want to become a sergeant one day and they could send you to university.
Or you go off and be an officer, and ultimately, like, you know, those grades do become barriers, but, you know, I don't want it to drift back to grades because ultimately, like, you know, he chose to do something that's really useful, really important, and it's because he sort of like got switched on and had the right conversations with the right people.
Had direction.
Yeah, I had direction, and
the way I go for it, and sometimes with schools or just even adults or children, is we're trying to navigate through life with our eyes closed. So it's like we're trying to work things out, but we don't have no clear idea of direction or plan or strategy. And I think sometimes it's our jobs to try and create that. I seen on your LinkedIn, you're also a part-time firefighter, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was the delay? Are you not?
No, like, Yeah, I'm not mega on LinkedIn, but I went on LinkedIn to find out about this job and like scope out the people that work there and stuff like that. Yeah, I do work with West Yorkshire Fire Service, which is like my other thing. It's my.
What does that consist of?
So I'm a retained firefighter, which basically means my fire station is not whole time. Okay. So you work there on the hours that you can spare, and you have an alerter, and then if there's a fire or whatever, you get down to station and go and do the job of a firefighter, which is a really nice thing to do. I really like it. Good team, good sense of community, and it's given us really good links with West Yorkshire Fire Service, who've done some really good stuff putting back into the community. So Shipley are up at our school tomorrow. The year 7s are in for summer school, and like the fire service is going to come up with a fire engine, talk to the kids, talk fire safety. And I think there's a big breakdown in society between like young people and the services that are there to protect them. And you don't go and be a firefighter for the money. You go because there's prestige in it, but mostly you want to do a job that helps people. You've got your job. You didn't get into it for the money. I mean, you wound up doing quite well, I imagine, based on like your website. I look
taller on the website, don't I? That's the problem.
Is that like stretch it out? Or
Dave Photoshop.
But we've had opening children's eyes to the opportunities that those services provide for them, but also getting them to understand that those people are out to help and protect. In the school that I worked at before, which is when I sort of joined, there were a number of instances in the local community where people throwing rocks at fire stations or shooting fireworks at them and things like that. Not specific to that school, but that's where it sort of came about. And my head teacher at the time, because I was deputy head there, was dead good about. It was set something up, and the fire service had come in previously, and we set up that GRIP program where they were going out, and you pick your kids, the ones that you think, well, do you know what, you might be in a park on a Friday night shooting fireworks at a fire engine, send them out to the fire station, get them to see a firefighter without their helmet on, work with them. Then they'll never do that, and they'll never lead somebody into doing that. And so we've started a program recently with the police doing the same thing. It's like a 6-week program, working with kids to sort of break down those perceptions that some young people and sadly some adults want to sell to the youth because they want to keep them isolated from the societal protection mechanisms that are in place to look after them, because they want to use them for their own devices. And the more you break down those barriers and the more you get that engagement and that buy-in, the easier it is. And it's cost the school nothing. These organisations want to come in, they want to have access, they want to do that community work, and it's that
amazing.
I think it takes a village to raise a child. Was the saying around it. It can't all just depend on a school.
But it's also a part of the community, right? So I think I mentioned it earlier in the other podcast, but ultimately the children are only in school for a small percentage of their time. What is it, 18% of their week or something, they're in school. So that the rest of the time, yes, they might be sleeping, but they're out in the community. So then you've got the police, you've got the fire service, you've got these other members who are, as you said, that's the village, isn't it? Have you ever saved a cat from a tree though?
No.
Never done that?
No.
Nothing similar to that?
At school, on the first day of exams this year, I got a phone call at 5:30 in the morning. Adam rang up and he was like, "Sam, there's a deer stuck in the fence." I was like, "What do you mean?" There's a deer stuck in the fence. It's all right, look, I'm on my way in. I'll assess when I get there.
Was this a school call?
School, this is school. Anyway, I get there and there's a deer and it's upside down, stuck between the wall and the fence, right next to the gate. It was the first day of the exams. I was like, Adam, I can't, kids are going to start turning up to school if they, if you won't have heard a deer in distress, it sounds like a really, really angry, loud sheep.
Okay.
I was like, kids can't walk past this into their exams.
Give us an example. That's the cut, mate. That's the LinkedIn clip.
Anyway, so I was like, we need to get it out. And then a vet turned up, and I was like, but the kids had already sat around, they're really keen now, want to come in for breakfast club, we do free breakfast for year 11s, the kids get there super early and they're all coming past. Is that a deer? They know the deer's here, I can't kill a deer on the first, not me, the vet, like, we can't have a deer killed on the first day. Anyway, we lifted it out, and we put it down by we've got a pond area, which is like closed in, so we put it in there. English exam went really smoothly. So I was like, what if the kids get really distressed by this deer? And like, I feel bad for the deer as well, but also it's like the exams dictate the rest of their lives. And small things can become could really put off a child from their essay. Because we were like, well, what if we get it and then it escapes and runs down the road? Like, what's going to happen to you? I was like, well, what if I don't get it out and then the deer's making all this noise and some kid starts crying and doesn't go into their exam and they don't pass their exam? I was like, whoa. So I rescued a deer.
That is your call to... I like it, mate. Amazing. Big question though. If you did have a magic wand to change one thing in education, what would you change?
I think schools are not recognised enough for the work with the most vulnerable children. So like the toughest school in Bradford at the moment, it's not Hanson, like probably has the most vulnerable cohort in the city. But, so being the head teacher there is a very noble job, right? Because who'd want it? When I went for my job, and Andy said it, so he won't mind me saying it, I was the only person who wanted the job. And like a lot of people are like, what are you doing? My wife was like, look, is this...
First headship as well?
Yeah, first headship, big school, graded inadequate, and I always looked at it as like, wow, this is like, this is amazing. Like, it's a massive school. It's got a sixth form. It's got a resource provision in it. It's got everything. But nobody wanted it because it was doing the hardest job. And yeah, granted, it wasn't doing it well, but no one else wanted it. And there's a lot of schools where people will be like, oh, it's a terrible school, that one. Whereas actually, they're probably doing the hardest job of the lot. And it's easy to sit in an amazing school and say, well, this school's awful. They're terrible. And there are schools that do that, will very closely guard the borders because they want to guard their reputation, but often that's at the expense of other schools. And no one's going into those schools and saying, you know what, fair play to you, you're doing an amazing job.
Wow.
So yeah, how that works, I don't know, because Ofsted have sort of adjusted a little bit to recognise the sort of inclusion side of things, but the reality is outcomes can be completely skewed by those most vulnerable kids. And so some schools need to do a better job with it, and some schools need more recognition of the work that they are doing in looking after those most challenging, most vulnerable cohorts.
Amazing. If you could sit down with any one person, dead or alive, could be famous, not famous, what one person would you sit down with? I know he's not left yet. You can't say Sir Paul Khan, or you can't say him. He's gone by this time it's coming out.
Yeah. It goes at two strands, isn't it? Is it like a me thing, or is it like a
whatever? Just
to do my moral purpose?
Just for
thing?
you, just whatever. If you could just have, it could be a David Beckham, right? It could be Beyonce, right? It could be anyone. It could be Jesus. Just one person, dead or alive, famous or not, you would sit down. It could be your grandmother. It could be.
Well, no, it has to be my grandmother.
Apart from you.
Which I would she was ace. I've been very lucky. I think if I were to pick my own now, there are some things that I would want to speak in education. I'd quite like to sit down with the education secretary and give my 2 bits on something. But otherwise, maybe Freddie Mercury. When I was a kid, he was like, I'm not. Yeah, I quite like the moustache.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I taught every year in Switzerland, and where Montreux is where he apparently had a house. So there is a statue on the Lake Geneva of Freddie Mercury, and it's pretty cool, to be fair. And that's where they have the jazz festival every year. So yeah, it's really cool. You should go. But anyway, Sam, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I just think it's unbelievable, and I feel like now, especially knowing you, I'd done a lot of research beforehand, seeing what you're about, seeing what you've done. I think it's incredible, and actually, I think even from having Paul on the podcast, who's very serious, it's also nice to have you and seeing that you probably bring your energy, your philosophy, and everything else to the school. And I can now see why the school's so successful after you've taken board. I don't want to give you too much credit, mate.
Yeah. Don't
Maybe leave the deers alone, but thank you. Where can we? Are you on any socials or anything like that? No. All right. Well, he's on LinkedIn anyway. All right. Obviously, don't go on LinkedIn often. But thank you, guys. There is another episode of the School Podcast. Do all the good stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
My name is Sian Lord, and I help deliver the Girls Growth Programme, a programme that helps deliver impact for teenage girls, ensuring that they're happier and healthier on their school journey, with a big focus on relationships, friendships, body image, self-esteem, mental health and mindset.
I'm Natalie. I'm one of the leaders for our Girls Growth Programme, where we discuss important issues such as self-esteem, diet, exercise and confidence. Think of 3 unhealthy habits that you have for yourself at this moment in time. And when you don't get enough sleep, it's harder to regulate your emotions and small problems can seem much bigger than they are. Exercise isn't just about looking good or staying fit, it's vital for your mental health.
So get in touch today to get the support that your girls need now.